In no time at all, Senate Republicans went on the offensive, saying the president has blamed others for deficits, the budget, and the oil spill. Republican Senator John Thune joins us live here in Washington. Senator, President needs to listen to himself a little bit?
I think that was an example of do what I say, not what I do. And there's nothing more powerful than the power of example. And in this case, it's one thing to suggest that to a group of students. But as you mentioned, whether it's the stimulus bill where he told us we were going to create 3 million jobs, and then it was 3 million jobs created or saved, then it was 3 million jobs saved, now we find out it's mostly Census Bureau jobs, or whether it's health care, whether it's the oil spill, the president has a pattern of trying to pass the buck, trying to blame somebody else, and trying to have scapegoats. And I think he probably got some political advice, particularly with the oil spill, to keep your distance from this. You've got a perfect foil out there. This oil company can be the bogeyman. And I think at some point you have to own up to these things. You can't continue to blame Bush. You can't continue to blame Cheney. And that seems to be the mantra of this administration.
At what point does he own? Let's take the economy. When he came into office, the economy was in a very rough situation. But now we're a year and a half out. Does he own the economy now?
He does, and I think partly because when he came in, he decided, I'm going to fix this and I'm going to pass this big stimulus bill, which got driven to the left by his party in Congress. But he signed it into law, and it's been $1 trillion that we've added to the federal debt. We've seen very little job creation from that. And so I think the president, after having been in office now for a year and a half, this is his economy. And particularly with all the prescriptions he's tried to put in place to address it, none of which have worked, and most of which have made it much, much worse. And I would argue health care is a good example of that. It's going to raise taxes, it's going to raise health insurance premiums for most Americans, and it's obviously going to lead to more spending and more debt for the country.
Well, he often does say that he's mopped up after the economy. He's mopped up. So he's no longer, in your view, mopping up. He owns that situation.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't. There's a point at which you have to say, okay, I'm the guy in charge now. And the president still likes to have it both ways. I mean, he likes to blame somebody, and his predecessor in this case, or an oil company. He's always got some scapegoat that he's able to point the finger at.
Is it fair? I mean, the oil company's a pretty good scapegoat. I mean, the economy is a little different. I mean, he came in and he changed the whole direction of the economy, and he elected, rather than to cut taxes, he decided stimulus. So I can understand that he owns the economy. But with the oil spill, I mean, that's a pretty good one. It is somebody else. It isn't the president.
And in fairness to him, I mean, this is something that came to him. He obviously didn't create this, but at the same time, I think there's a leadership style that people are looking for in a time of crisis. And obviously, this gets at the issue of whether or not he should have been there, should have been convening those experts, the scientists, the technicians, all the people who have solutions, including members of his administration. That's a little different situation. As you mentioned, the stimulus bill clearly is something where he said, this is how I would propose to fix this. And after having spent $1 trillion, it really hasn't amounted to anything consequential in terms of job creation or economic growth. And so I think that where the economy is concerned, this is, it's time to step up and to say, okay. And frankly, the other thing I would mention, because all the trajectory that he's put us on in terms of the agenda for the country, whether it's health care or whether it's we're going to pass a bill probably in the next week in the Senate that adds another $80 billion to the federal debt, it is creating more debt. It is creating more spending. It is raising taxes at every turn. Those are absolutely the wrong things to do in the middle of a recession if you want to create jobs.
I'll tell you what that caught my attention. Senator Brasso, a member of your party, who was here the other night, and I asked him why it is that President Obama is out selling health care, because health care is a done deal. It is passed, and so why would he be selling it? And Senator Brasso said, well, for political reasons, that the whole purpose is because he needs to get out and make the American people think it's a really good thing so that come November everyone votes for his parties. And health care is one of those things. It's sort of like the economy. It's sort of like war. There's some things that should be so above partisanship, that should be so above politics. And there was an enormous shift with the health care that it just, I guess that seemed less like leadership and like politics as usual, and a little bit away from what he had told us we were going to get when he so eloquently ran for president.
Well, and I think what he's done with health care now, and it is, I mean, they realize to win elections in November, they have to sell this, and they've got a really bad product to sell. And so they're using, I think, very misleading arguments with the American people. And when you spend $18 million, taxpayer dollars, to send out a glossy 4-page, what is essentially a campaign brochure to promote certain aspects of the bill. Sure it is. I mean, they sent it out to 40. Well, 15 to 20, we don't know exactly, but it's millions of dollars.
Even if it's 10 million, because I go down these streets, these small towns, and I see every single every other store has a for lease sign because the unemployment level is so dismal in this country, still at 9.7%. So it's hard for me to think, like, did they really spend anything more than $5 on this?
Well, now they did, and they spent it. They sent it out to 40 million senior citizens to tell them they're going to get a $250 check, and we now know that only 1 in 10 is actually going to get the $250 check.
Did they get any other information in this flyer?
Well, they were told that the Class Act, which is a new long-term care insurance program, is going to be something that they will want to take advantage of and utilize. And according to the president's own actuary, that faces significant risk of failure, is going to add to the deficit in the out years. And the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, a Democrat in the United States Senate, said this is a Ponzi scheme of the highest order, something that Bernie Madoff would be proud of. So they're promoting these things because they know that if they don't, the American people have made judgments about the health care bill, consistent with what I think are the facts as they pertain to the health care bill. The president's trying to sort of change the argument and convince them that it's something it's not.
What is it that you most admire he's done in office, and what has he done that's most disappointing?
I think that I think there are some things in the area of education. He's got Arnie Duncan over there. They're trying to do some reforms. They're trying to take on the teachers' unions. Those are some things that I actually think he's shown some leadership on. I think the steps that he's taken in Afghanistan, perhaps also, but on other areas of foreign policy, I think he's shown tremendous weakness. I think on domestic policy issues, he's been pulled to the left by the Congress. Either that's where he really is ideologically. But the things that they've done since he's been in office have not been things that, in my view, are improving the future for the American people. In fact, they're making it much worse and putting the country, I think, in greater danger when it comes to the issue of fiscal responsibility, but also when it comes to our place in the world.
I thought it was interesting is that he's been used less and less by his party as we march towards November. He's done a couple fundraisers for Senator Boxer out in California, but Senator Blanche Lincoln used President Clinton down in Arkansas. Of course, that's his home state. He blamed the election for Senator Scott Brown on the fact of discontent with President Bush and with the country. I mean, it's like he seems to be less of a factor with his own party as we march towards midterm.
His batting average isn't good, and I think what people are realizing that the electorate right now cares about several things. One is jobs and the economy.
2 is jobs, 3 is jobs, and 4 is jobs.
Well, but close behind that is debt and spending. And those are all things on which he does not have a good record to talk about. And a lot of these Democrats who are running in states where you've got right-of-center electorates are going to recognize that he's not going to be much of an asset to them. And in fact, those areas, as you know, where he's weighed in already, they've in most cases been defeated by pretty large margins.
Senator, thanks, sir.
Always good to be with you, Greta.